HOA security guard punched my wife. But we didn't just break their faces, we broke their whole corrupt system. And that's a victory worth more than any revenge. Before we start the story, comment down from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. It was a normal Tuesday when it happened. I was in my garage fixing our fence. My wife Lisa was doing yoga in our backyard. She loves yoga. Says it helps her stay calm. Then I heard loud voices. I walked out to see what was happening. 3 men in black uniforms with HOA security patches were standing in our yard. They were yelling at Lisa about our fence being too tall. "Your fence violates HOA rules," said the biggest guy. He had a clipboard and acted like he was in charge. Lisa stood up from her yoga mat. "We already filed paperwork about this. We're waiting for approval." "That doesn't matter," the man said. "You need to take it down now. You can't just come into our yard like this," Lisa said. "This is our property." That's when it happened. The big guy got angry and punched Lisa right in the face. Art. She fell down on the grass. Blood came from her nose. She looked shocked. I couldn't believe what I just saw. This fake security guy had hit my wife over a fence. I dropped my tools and ran to her. "Are you okay?" I asked, helping her sit up. "I'm fine," Lisa said, touching her bloody nose. "Just surprised." I turned to the man who hit her. I was so angry I could barely speak. "You just assaulted my wife." The guy shrugged. "She wasn't following the rules." That's when our nosy neighbor Karen yelled from across the street. "That fence is too high. It blocks the view." I looked at the security guy. "You punched a woman over a fence height. Do you know who I am?" He smirked. "Should I care? I'm a former Navy SEAL. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." His smirk disappeared. The other 2 security guys stepped back. "You're trespassing on our property," I said in a calm voice. "You assaulted my wife. You have 5 seconds to get off our lawn before I show you what real security looks like." They backed away quickly. The leader tried to look tough, but I could see fear in his eyes. "This isn't over," he said. "The HOA board will hear about this." "Good," I said. "So will the police." After they left, I helped Lisa inside and put ice on her face. The side of her face was already turning purple. "Why didn't you hit him back?" Lisa asked me. "Because I don't want to go to jail," I said. "But don't worry. They're going to pay for this." That night, I called my buddy Mike, who's a police officer. He came over right away and took pictures of Lisa's face in our statement. He was shocked when I told him what happened. "HOA security doesn't have any real authority," Mike said. "They're like mall cops. They definitely can't come onto your property without permission or hit people." "That's what I thought," I said. "I'll file a report," Mike said. "This is assault, plain and simple." While Mike was writing up the report, I made some calls to my old military buddies. One of them, Dave, now worked as a private investigator. I told him what happened and he was furious. "Send me everything you have on this HOA," Dave said. "Photos, names, anything. I'll start digging tonight." After Mike left, I started looking through our HOA rulebook. It was big and full of stupid rules about everything from grass height to what color you can paint your mailbox. I had never read it before. Now I was looking for anything about security guards and their powers. On page 43 I found what I needed. It said clearly, HOA representatives must announce themselves and receive permission before entering private property. They never asked for permission. They just walked in. I kept reading and found more interesting things. The HOA wasn't allowed to hire security without a vote from all homeowners. And all fines had to be approved by at least 3 board members, not just the president. I called my neighbor John, who was on the HOA board. He was surprised to hear what happened. "The HOA doesn't have security guards," John said. "We have inspectors who check for violations, but they don't wear uniforms and they definitely don't have the right to hit people." "Then who were these guys?" I asked. "I don't know," John said. "But I'm going to find out. Let me make some calls." Before going to bed, I checked on Lisa. She was in the bathroom looking at her face in the mirror. Her nose was swollen and she had a black eye forming. "How bad is it?" I asked. "I've had worse," she said. Lisa was a nurse who had worked in the ER for 10 years. She'd been hit by confused patients before. But this time it was on purpose. I hugged her gently. "I'm going to make this right." "I know you will," she said. "That's why I married you." The next morning Dave called me early. "You're not going to believe what I found," he said. "Try me," I replied. "That security company isn't registered anywhere. They don't exist officially. But I tracked down their office. It's just a small room above a pizza place." And guess who owns it? A guy named Rick Thompson, who happens to be Karen's brother-in-law. You're kidding? I said. Nope. And there's more. I found complaints about these same security guards in 3 other neighborhoods. Always the same pattern. They show up, harass people about minor violations, and sometimes get physical. 2 people moved away after being targeted. This was bigger than I thought. It wasn't just about our fence or one angry security guard. It was a whole system of intimidation. Later that day, Lisa and I went to the hospital to get her checked out. The doctor said she had a broken nose and some bruising, but nothing more serious. Still, seeing her face swollen and bruised made me furious all over again. The doctor was concerned when Lisa told him how it happened. I've seen 3 other patients this month with similar stories, he said. All from HOA disputes. One was an elderly man who was pushed down his own front steps. Did they report it? I asked. They were too scared, the doctor said. Said they didn't want more trouble. When we got home, there was a notice on our door. It said we were being fined $500 for our fence and for interfering with HOA officials. It was signed by Karen, who was apparently the HOA president. That was the last straw. I took pictures of the notice, then called our lawyer, Sarah. She listened to our story and was outraged. This is completely illegal, Sarah said. First, they trespassed. Second, they assaulted your wife. And now they're trying to fine you? We're going to sue them and that security company. What security company? I asked. We don't even know who these guys work for. We'll find out, Sarah promised. I'm going to request a temporary restraining order against these security guards and Karen. They won't be allowed near your property while we sort this out. That evening, the doorbell rang. It was John from the HOA board, looking worried. I asked around about those security guards, he said. Karen hired them privately. The board never approved this. She's been doing a lot of things without telling us. Like what? I asked. Like sending out fake violation notices to people she doesn't like. And collecting fines that never go into the HOA account. Now things were starting to make sense. This wasn't just about our fence. This was about Karen abusing her power and using fake security to intimidate people. How long has this been going on? I asked. At least a year, maybe longer, John said. I checked the books. Over $50,000 in fines has been collected, but only about $10,000 shows up in our account. So she's stealing money too, I said. Looks that way. Several board members want to call an emergency meeting. This has gone way too far. After John left, our next-door neighbor Melissa came over with a cake. I heard what happened, she said. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Lisa said, inviting her in. You know, those same guys came to my house last month, Melissa said as we ate cake in the kitchen. They said my garden gnomes were unauthorized decorations. I was so scared I just paid the fine. How much? I asked. $200, Melissa said. I couldn't afford it, but I was afraid they'd come back. Did you get a receipt? Lisa asked. Just a handwritten note, Melissa said. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to cause trouble. Do you still have it? I asked. Melissa nodded. I keep everything. Would you be willing to show it to my lawyer? And maybe talk to the police? Melissa looked nervous but agreed. If it helps stop them, yes. By the end of the day, Dave had collected statements from 7 neighbors who had similar experiences. All had paid fines for minor violations, all had handwritten receipts, and none of the money had gone to the HOA. The next day was the monthly HOA meeting. Lisa and I decided to go, even though her face was still swollen and bruised. We brought Dave, Sarah, and Mike with us for support. Mike wasn't on duty, but he wore his police uniform anyway. Before the meeting, we gathered with several neighbors in the parking lot. Sarah gave them a quick explanation of their rights and what we were planning to do. When we walked into the community center, everyone stared at us. Karen was at the front of the room, looking nervous when she saw us. We're here to discuss the security incident yesterday, I announced to everyone. That's not on the agenda, Karen said quickly. It is now, I replied, walking to the front of the room. Everyone needs to know what's happening in our neighborhood. I told the whole story, how the fake security guards came onto our property, how one of them punched Lisa over a fence dispute, and how we later found out they weren't even official HOA representatives. People gasped when they saw Lisa's face. Some started sharing their own stories about getting strange violation notices and fines. One older man stood up. They told me my birdhouse was against the rules. Made me take it down and fine me $200. A woman raised her hand. They said my flowers were too tall and trampled them. More and more people started speaking up. Karen looked more nervous by the minute. Then John stood up. As a board member, I need to say that the board never approved hiring security guards. And we never approved many of these fines people are talking about. All eyes turned to Karen. She tried to defend herself, saying she was just enforcing the rules, but nobody believed her anymore. I make a motion to remove Karen as HOA president, John said. Almost everyone raised their hands in agreement. Karen grabbed her purse and started to leave, but Mike moved to block the door. Karen Thompson, he said, I'm placing you under arrest for assault by proxy, fraud, and theft. You can't do this. Karen yelled as Mike read her rights. I'm the president of this association. Not anymore, John said. And by the way, the board has voted to cooperate fully with the police investigation. As Mike led Karen out, Sarah addressed the crowd. If anyone has been fined or harassed by these security guards, please contact my office. We're filing a class action lawsuit. Almost everyone in the room lined up to give Sarah their information. The next few weeks were busy. Our lawyer filed the lawsuit against Karen and the security company she had hired. The police arrested the man who hit Lisa, charging him with assault and impersonating security. They also arrested the other 2 guards and Rick Thompson, Karen's brother-in-law who ran the fake security company. We found out the security guards had criminal records. None of them were trained or licensed. They just wore fake uniforms to scare people. The investigation revealed that Karen and Rick had been running this scam in 4 different neighborhoods. They targeted older residents, single women, and families who seemed unlikely to fight back. In total, they had collected over $200,000 in fake fines. The HOA board apologized to everyone who had been harassed or fined unfairly. They promised to refund all the fake fines and create new, clearer rules that everyone would vote on. 2 months after the incident, we had our day in court. The security guard who hit Lisa pleaded guilty to assault. The judge sentenced him to 1 year in jail and ordered him to pay for Lisa's medical bills. Karen and Rick faced more serious charges for running the fake security company and stealing HOA funds. They both pleaded not guilty, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. Bank records showed they had deposited the fine money into their personal accounts. And their text messages revealed they had specifically targeted certain homeowners they didn't like. In the end, Karen was sentenced to 5 years in prison for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. Rick got 7 years because he had a previous conviction for fraud. The judge also ordered them to pay back all the money they had stolen, plus damages to everyone who had been harassed. As for our fence, the new HOA board approved it unanimously. They even passed a new rule saying that decorative fences up to 6 feet tall were allowed without special permission. 6 months later, our neighborhood had completely changed. The new HOA board, led by John, was transparent and fair. They posted all financial records online and held open meetings where everyone could speak. We started having neighborhood events, block parties, cookouts, and even a community garden where people could grow vegetables together. Lisa's face had healed completely. She became something of a local hero for standing up to Karen and her thugs. She started a support group for people who had been bullied by their HOAs, which quickly grew to include members from all over the city. I kept in touch with Dave and Mike, who had helped us expose the scam. Dave had started a new business investigating HOA fraud, which turned out to be surprisingly common. Mike was promoted to detective, partly because of his work on our case. One evening, Lisa and I were sitting on our porch enjoying the sunset. Our neighbor Melissa walked by with her dog and waved. "Have you seen the news?" she called out. They found 3 more neighborhoods where Karen and Rick were running their scam. "Not surprised," I said. "People like that don't stop at just one place." "Well, thanks to you guys they've stopped for good," Melissa said. After she left, Lisa turned to me. "You know what's funny? If that security guy hadn't punched me, they might still be running their scam." I put my arm around her shoulders. "Nobody messes with a Navy SEAL's wife and gets away with it." Lisa smiled. "You didn't even have to throw a punch." "Nope," I said. "Sometimes justice works better than fists." Lisa leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you. A lot of guys would have just beaten those security guards up and ended up in jail themselves." "I learned in the SEALs that the real battle isn't always the obvious one," I said. "Sometimes you have to step back and see the bigger picture." "Well, I'm glad you did," Lisa said. "Our neighborhood is better now. People actually talk to each other instead of just sending violation notices." As if to prove her point, John walked by with his family and stopped to chat. His kids asked if they could play with our sprinkler this weekend, and we happily agreed. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, Lisa brought up something unexpected. "Remember how the doctor said he'd seen other patients with HOA injuries?" she asked. Yeah, I said. Why? I've been thinking about it. What if we started an organization to help people deal with abusive HOAs? Not just here but everywhere. Like a support group? I asked. More than that, Lisa said, her eyes lighting up. Legal advice, investigation services, maybe even a hotline people could call if they're being harassed. I smiled. That was Lisa, always turning bad situations into opportunities to help others. I think it's a great idea, I said. What would you call it? How about homeowners fighting back? She suggested. Perfect, I said. Where do we start? Lisa grabbed a notebook and started writing. First, we need a website. Then we contact everyone from the lawsuit and see who wants to get involved. As Lisa planned our new mission, I realized something important. What happened to us was terrible, but it had led to something good. Not just for our neighborhood, but potentially for thousands of people dealing with similar situations. And that's the thing about life that I learned in the Navy SEALs. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best opportunities. You just have to be strong enough to get through the bad parts and smart enough to recognize the good when it comes. So yeah, an HOA security guard punched my wife. But in the end, we didn't just break their faces, we broke their whole corrupt system. And that's a victory worth more than any revenge.